All right, we just wrapped up an awesome conversation here with Rob, and of course we got the mandatory podcast kind of wrap up here with the SynkedUP mug. But we had a great conversation on business. I really enjoyed talking shop with you, Rob, and just going over what your business lines look like at your services, like the softscapes and a lot of commercial accounts, a lot of maintenance accounts, which is really cool to hear. And just how, what was really inspirational for me was just how you took SynkedUP and just, like you said, ingrained it into your system. And also just some of the lessons you shared with like getting a good tax guy on your side and some of the real life lessons you've learned from. So enjoy the rest of the show, and thank you for having us, Rob.
It was a pleasure.
Welcome back to another episode of the Cost of Doing Business podcast. We are here in the Buffalo, New York region, and I am with Rob Picone from Picone Landscape. Thanks for having us, man.
Pleasure.
Appreciate it.
I'm excited. This is my first podcast, so let me know how I do. Take it easy.
So it's going to be the best one.
Yeah,
you know?
Okay, there, the best one. All right, there you go.
So give us a little bit of a lay of the land, like what your business looks like, or how many people you employ, what kind of work you do.
So in any given time of the year, we have between probably 25 and 30 people.
Okay.
You know, collectively, we have 3 people in the office, answer phone, book appointments for everything, and then just depending on the year. I will say this year was a little bit slower than normal, so we laid off guys a little bit sooner than we normally would. I just don't know if that's just the year. We're still up collectively, but I feel like the volume of work that would normally be anticipated in the years past was just down. Again, I don't know if that's
Does it mean your backlog shorter?
Yeah, so like we would normally be booked a month out.
Yeah.
And these guys would be bumping 50, 55 hours a week all the way up until the end of July. And then they would go down to like 35 to 40 hours, you know, come August. And then September, like installs would pick back up. I feel like right after 4th of July, it just dropped. You know, regular maintenance stuff, but people were just not wanting to spend the money. And I felt like that was at a whole. A lot of the nurseries were down in the area. A lot of the sprinkler companies were down in the area, like when you get a good feel. And I also believe having a good network of knowing my competition, what they're doing, our vendors, you know, you feel a little bit better. You feel a little bit more secure when you're like, yeah, Rob, you know, August is light, or yeah, Rob, yeah, we're down. Our plant sales are down. So it brings a little bit comfort where, you know, am I doing something wrong? How do I?
Yeah, it's kind of the $1 million question when things aren't going well. It's like, am I doing something wrong? And I don't. It's kind of weird. It's like when it's like, no, everybody's down. It's like, okay, then I feel better about myself.
Yeah, a little bit.
It's a little bit weird, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
So what have you done to deal with that though?
So we started cold calling. So I noticed right away.
Like past customers?
Yeah.
Okay.
Past customers, new customers. We actually had, one, I wanted to keep my snowplow guys busy.
Okay.
So what we did is we took our top guys and we restructured. So we got rid of like our 2s and 3s, and then we kept our guys that I know that wake up in the middle of the night and made sure that they had the hours, and then we laid off like our seasonal guys. Then we kicked it in overdrive, cold calling. I started driving houses, discount landscaping. Here you go. I'd go down streets, start cold calling, leaving estimates right in the mailbox. And that was huge. That booked us.
Really?
It was massive, yeah. And I thought it was kind of crazy. I'm like, either people are going to think like this just looks really desperate, or they're going to absolutely love it because they're getting discount landscape. I just want to keep our guys busy.
So did you come up with like some kind of little package that you were giving away?
Yeah, we normally do everything via email.
Yeah.
But what we did is we just kind of took our old, we used to have ply paper, that's how we used to do it. So we just took those out, started writing them out. We're like discount pricing for August or September pricing. And it was overwhelming, booked us. Like, it was massive. So I was able to keep our core guys busy. I don't really want everybody to know, but if they find this, they will, because it worked, you know? And then a lot of our larger accounts kind of came up with, hey, Rob, we don't have it in the budget. We lowered the price a little bit for them to keep our guys busy, which was like a lifesaver. It was like a huge relief, because I have good guys. I got guys with me 4 or 5 years, and you know, they got kids and stuff. You don't really want to lay them off.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I tell them. I said, if you're my guy, I will work hard.
Make it. Yeah.
I will work hard. And this was the first year, and I was like, oh no, I might not be able to do it, but we did it. We're doing it, and we're very solid. So we're almost booked through September, which is amazing. And then October, obviously, the leaves fall, and we're in good shape.
Yeah.
And snow plow and stuff.
Fantastic. It's a great story of just like, you know, you could sit back and say like the market's down and that's it, or you go out there and just hustle. I mean, that's the definition of it.
There's always a lot of work, but this year I felt it. And I would say a huge struggle for me is, how do I hire for my position? But I don't know how to describe my position. I would say
That is the hard part. Yep.
you know, my position is selling. I move equipment around. I'm dealing with the office girls, and I would like to take, you know, more off of my plate so that we can continue to scale. And I'm still learning, you know, and I like to be friends with our competitors, the guys that are bigger than me. I like to see what they're doing because we learn from it. You know, I have mentors that are bigger than I am, and I call them, but they're all hands-on people. Like, I don't feel like I should be 60 years old and still have to be as hands-on as I see a lot of these guys.
Right.
And there's only a small market of people that really learn to take a step back. I'm just trying to get to the next level.
Do you read books at all or listen to books at all?
Yeah.
Have you ever read E-Myth?
No.
Okay, that'd be it, because what you're describing, I mean, it's a book about exactly that.
Yeah.
What you're talking about, like stepping back, what is my role? How do I hire that out or delegate that? And like two books that I recommend to all contractors. Like if you're listening to this or if you're using SynkedUP, you should listen or you should read is E-Myth, and then as soon as you're done reading that one, Buy Back Your Time. It's a the Buy Back Your Time book has like a bluish cover. Those two books together are like the recipe for like how to just kind of like eat an elephant one bite at a time, you know, like build the systems and processes that give you the clarity of like, okay, what is the role that I'm going to hire for? How do I take everything I do and turn it into something that people can take on?
The last book that I read, so I took 5 years off, maybe like 15 years ago, and I was in sales. And the one book that won me over was How to Win Friends Over. I forget what was, and that one was huge. Is that the name of the book? I forget. And that one was huge because I was learning how to sell, how to interact. And you're gonna laugh at me, please don't make fun of me. There's a book called The Game, and it taught you how to like interact with women at the time. And that was huge because it taught you to like confidence and how to be in front of people. And they've been fantastic. They've translated into being able to cold call, walk into commercial accounts, and
so there's more of a book about, you know, psychology or relationships and that kind of thing.
And been massive. And I would say that is also what separates us from Billy the kid down the street and making that transition into, I don't want to say like adulthood, but understanding corporate America, white collar guys that are, you know, when you make that transition. So that was kind of huge for me. And I guess learning how to speak, you should say. 'Cause you know how it is when you're dealing with blue collar guys, you know, it's hard not to swear and stuff like that. I don't know if you've seen that or not.
No, never seen it.
I never know, you know, so yeah.
That must not have been around very long.
Well, I don't know. So
yeah, no, I know what you mean. And there is something to be said for putting on that professional, like sales. It's earning trust and credibility, and in some regards, some respect, you know, so being respectable is kind of step one. Talk about the breakdown of the kind of work you do. You were telling me before we started recording, like the softscapes and all that. You just describe that a bit.
Our bread and butter is we have a lot of lawns, and there's definitely not a lot of margins in it, but as a whole, I think it's huge for us. So we run 6 lawn crews, okay, that they're cutting between commercial, residential. And then we run like 3.5 landscaping crews. But my personal being is when you have this volume in lawns, once you get to the slow time of the season, you get to cherry pick bush trimmings, small little weedings. So you have like this basket of 600-700 customers that need extra work to keep these guys busy. I just think it's huge to have like these small little jobs. Like everybody wants to go for that $5,000 job. I mean, our average jobs might be $500 to $1,500. We don't turn anything away, but it keeps the guys busy during the slow time. We'll make our big nut, April, May, June, and then once we hit the downtime, I want to just keep guys busy. Even if I'm not making enough, once I hit the snow plowing season, I want to be able to be good to keep it going. You'll see it, at least in our market. You guys see once after the first 2 months, these guys are done. They don't take on any more jobs. They don't want to work the weekends. They're burned out. And so then we'll come in and we don't stop working. I will take everything. We do anything and anything. Then it also lands our bush trimmings, our mulches, our weedings. We book those solid all the way through July. Usually end of July, but again, this year it topped off. We've gotten into installs, we've laid pavers and stuff like that, but we have not been super successful at it. Our bread and butter is land mulch, pulling weeds, trimming bushes. I mean, we're super efficient at it. Yeah, and then snow plowing come the winter time. But yeah, we have not really broke ground with the hardscapes.
How many hours a week do you work?
I don't know the answer to that because I always feel like I can put more in.
Yeah.
So I always feel like I'm not doing enough. And then, Lisa's not here. She's a machine. She's a mom, and then she organizes me and the girls. And I just feel like we can always be doing more, but then I forget that we have to not do so much and enjoy our personal life.
Yeah, right. That's the battle.
Again, I don't mean to sound like everybody, but I don't feel like we ever stop working. We carry a laptop around with us. If we go on vacation, we're working. If we're at dinner, we have the cell phone. We do try to eat at 5 o'clock. I try to go home 5:30 and eat dinner at home. But right after, I'm out the door. So I have another business as well. We're in real estate and stuff. We have like apartments and things. So we'll eat dinner and then I go and show an apartment, or we're working on an apartment. So I don't know how much I work. I don't know. I don't know the answer.
Do you love it, or do you feel like you want to? Are you working toward where do you want to be in 5 years with your work life like that?
It depends on how I feel. And I'll give you an interesting story. My son is 2 years old. He loves playing with loaders, right? And heavy equipment is little toys. He wants to go. Sometimes I drive him around the shop and I have him move piles and things. And I saw the joy that my son was playing with the loaders, right? And I was like, oh, that's why I was doing it. That's how I ended up being it. I just like trucks and Tonka trucks. I'm just a big kid, and it's true. So you get recharged, right? And I was totally recharged, playing with the equipment, moving around, and it was totally why I got into the business again. But you get burned out really quick. You get, customers beat you up, who's not here, guy's not showing up, the stress that comes onto him. So it goes through waves of I'm ready to take on, I'm gonna do as much as I can. I'm retiring at 45. I'm selling everything, I'm done. So I go through this emotional roller coaster of absolutely loving it and then being I just need time away from it. But I think that's with anything.
Yeah. Yeah. It's we all have 24 hours in a day. It's how we use them, how we discipline them, how we, it kind of, the whole E-Myth systems and processes, buyback and time thing kind of leads into that conversation as well. But yeah, it's like you said, it's a tug of war of achieving everything we feel that we should be achieving, or while still having a balanced life.
I discuss with a lot of other people that we work with, and I have a friend of mine, he leaves 3-4 days on the weekends. He likes to go enjoy the Bahamas. And every time before he goes, I can hear himself trying to convince himself that it's okay to leave. He's like, well, why can't I leave my business for 3 days? Why can't I have my guys run the business? And we all go through the same thing. We want freedom. I started this business thinking I was going to get freedom. Okay, that was the whole reason. And it's just a struggle. But we will work hard to enjoy the time. So I try to leave my phone at home sometimes. Once I know that the guys are in and my trucks are parked, I'll shut my phone off and I enjoy the kids.
Yeah.
It's tough. And if you're not charging the right amount, you can't do that. Again, SynkedUP has been massive for us because it helped us get our prices right. I have an account right down the street. We raised them $15,000 after we added them up, and they still took us on. Can't enjoy your downtime if you don't have the funds to do it. So you're gonna drive yourself into the ground if you don't have that nest egg, the cash flows there. And SynkedUP has been massive for us because I always wanna double check my numbers. So I would write things up and I'm like, man, I wish there would be somebody double checking. I could never double check till we were at the end of the year when we're like, hey, we had 80 hours of snowplowing, we had 15 hours of landscaping. So I wouldn't know if I was right till the end of the season. So now I go on, I'm like, hey, this one is about 35,000. And then Lisa puts it in and she goes, well, SynkedUP is actually at 38,000. So you kind of all right, well, let's split the difference. So I'm arguing with SynkedUP to get the account, and that's been massive for me. It has been huge. We love it. It's our whole business now.
What was the thing that kind of that made you say, let's look into this?
So when I started watching videos. A lot of people doing estimates by looking at Google Earth. I walked every single property, lawns, bush trimming, and it was insanity. I was in the car all day and I would walk circles around. When I tell you I was doing 30, 40 estimates a day of walking just for lawn prices, and I started having more kids. I needed to be home more. I couldn't be just giving estimates. I looked at Lisa and I was like, we need to figure out a different way to bump out these estimates if we're gonna do the volume and grow. Then we started doing Google Earth. We started getting comfortable. Then I was like, okay, well, let's do snow plowing estimates. Let's do lawn estimates with Google Earth. It's been huge. Then we started implementing GPSs. We put GPSs in the truck. We have cameras everywhere. We're monitoring our fuel. So we just started putting tech into our business. I'm not a tech guy, okay? That's why I need I'm very weak with it. That's why I have 3 girls in the office to help me. So we started seeing, we put monitors on our fuel pumps. Everybody had codes. And then we're like, okay, well now how do we scale to teach our guys to document things? I want pictures. Yes, there was a competitor that we saw first. Then we test run everybody. So there was I think 5 major companies, and we went through, and I think we did a 1 to 3 hour seminar on all of them that met our needs. It was a ton of work before we picked up SynkedUP. There was other companies, but they wanted 1% of my business as well. Then I wanted to be able to measure edging as well, which I think we didn't have that yet. And there was one thing that I loved about you guys why we didn't pick the other people. I don't know if I remember if it was the interaction when we first signed up with you guys, or that we were able to communicate. I forget what the one thing was. It was synced up, but it's been a blessing ever since. It's been huge just based off of the numbers. Definitely a huge learning curve. When I think you guys say 3 months before onboarding, I think it takes a little bit longer if you have a team. If it's one person
every business is a little different in that regard.
Yeah, the onboarding was hard. And I have other people that are using it. You have to use it.
Yes.
You have to use it. So
it's worthless if you don't use it.
It's worthless. So he's like, oh, I'm liking it, but I'm double checking. He's like, I'm going back to my old ways, and now you're in between 2 systems. No. You cannot be in between 2 systems. You just have to dive in, and it has been just massive. We walk away from accounts based off of what SynkedUP is telling us. I mean, it has been huge. I couldn't imagine not having the system. It would be totally crazy. And I'm not telling you because you're here. I tell that to everybody that's here. Just when you put the numbers in on the account when you're bidding, the prices are so across the board. I'm not exaggerating. I'm putting things in at 115,000, and there's guys coming in at 35,000. And they're doing it for 1 to 2 years. And I'm not mad at them. They just don't know.
Yeah, right, exactly.
They just don't know.
Exactly. Really, then it's I feel, it's dude, are you okay? Do you realize, do you know your own numbers?
This is what ends up happening. It's a landscaping across the board, right? You're young, you're getting started. I call it a circle of money. You hit the spring, right? Taking on all this money, all these lawns, deposits. I'm rich. I feel great. You go buy equipment, you put deposits down, you feel like the man, right? You get to the middle of the season, you're like, what's going on? I had breakdowns, the fuel price went up, I can't weather this storm, I can't fix that piece of equipment because you're down, you needed to bring on help, right? Now you're down. You're like, oh no, what am I gonna do? The work's dried up, right? I better start selling snow plowing. And everybody takes on all this snow plowing money. They're like, look at this, my account's back up. I'm feeling like, I feel the man, right? I have 50 G's in the account, right? Then you get a bad storm, fuel spikes again, you need tires, things break down, transmission. Now you're halfway through the wintertime and you have no funds. You're like, oh no, what do I do? Now you're here for the spring. Now you're sending out things to collect the spring money. Spring money comes up, and the whole time there's no money left over. And these people will do this for years, and they have no idea, but they have nothing left over. They can't fix equipment. They wonder why they can't have a deposit to go put on their house. They wonder why they can't take a vacation. These are things that you need to do to live a healthy lifestyle running a business.
100%.
And I see it all the time. I have one of my best friends, we were partnered when we were kids, and I try to tell him, I'm not being a jerk when I tell you that you need to charge more because I want you to get the price up. You need to charge more because that's what you need to charge to have it and what your bottom line numbers are. We have $100,000 in breakdowns, in repairs that we need to fix every year. That's just a number that we have to fix because the equipment gets old. I mean, it's normal. Your system told me that. We see it. It's all documented, and it gives you the breakdowns on it. It's amazing. It's amazing. It makes you just, you're like, either I have to raise my price or I'm closing the doors.
Yeah, well, that's what you get to.
Yeah.
You get to a point where it is what it is kind of statement. The unfortunate part is like those breakdowns and those overhead expenses. Like if you're not planning for them, you literally laid it out. Like you think you have all this money, but it's not, your business hasn't paid its bills for the year yet.
Yep.
And it sucks you dry, and it's just a vicious cycle. And in the meantime, the most common result I see going out and doing all these, traveling and visiting businesses, the most common result I see when I do some speaking and that kind of thing is like, people just put their heads down and work harder, and they think they're gonna outwork the problem.
Yep.
And sure, you might move the needle for a bit, but eventually you tap out that option as well. You can't work any more hours. You can't work any harder. We get old. We get, our back starts hurting, that kind of thing. And it's a hopeless, it's a cycle that will not break unless you do something different. It's just a story of that makes the whole saying of the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. I mean, it's really a story that is an example of that statement being true.
It's just crazy, and guys end up feeling guilty because
that's
they
right.
don't know.
They think well, you associate your own value of $1 to your client, and that's mistake number one in sales. Salesmanship is a huge piece that I think gets overlooked because to your point about the books that you were reading and stuff, I like to kind of like simplify it down to you. Build your budget, figure out your numbers, and then go develop your salesmanship abilities, or hire someone that can.
It's just crazy the amount of guys that end up feeling guilty. They're like, oh, Rob, it cost me, $400 to be there. I made $1,200. I was there a few hours. I'm like, yeah, that's what you should be making. You have hidden expenses that are going to come down the road. You need to be able to have that.
Gross profit is not the same as net profit.
And many people don't know
You
that.
cannot look at gross and think that you're doing. Looking at gross profit is like looking at your bank account after you just got deposits from a couple big jobs and you think you're rich, but you're not. It's not your money. It's not your money until that job's done. What's left then after the job is completely done and every bill is paid, okay, now.
It's crazy. So another big thing that happens to us is, so once you start getting into commercial work, right, and we're still on that learning curve, we've definitely taken on a lot of commercial accounts over the last couple of years. And the same question that everybody stops me, and when they're at the gas station, and these young kids and these people, they want to know, how are you buying loaders? How are you buying $30,000 snow blowers? How do you make that jump? There are commercial snow plowing is such a stretch of like $30,000 to $150,000.
It's expensive stuff.
The professional property manager knows not to entertain the $35,000 guy. And I tell these guys, I'm like, when you walk up into a commercial account, they know if you know. And they know that you need the funds to do the job right. We do hospitals, we do in schools, okay, we're doing big places. They laugh when they get a bid at $40,000. Like they're not gonna entertain.
It's like they know they can't even do it for that.
They know, so you're gonna get a bad service, So I'm not saying that you have to be astronomical, but these guys always gravitate to the people that know what they're doing. These property managers will drive by my shop. They want to see, hey, do you really have 25, 30 guys? Do you really have the equipment? They check up on that, and you have to be able to. You need one guy to give you the chance, and then from there it should down spiral. But making the jump into the commercial, I think, is into the bigger stuff is really hard, and it's just you need the money. You need the money to do it, to buy the piece of equipment. A push block is $20,000. You're not going to buy an $8,000 plow. These are big pieces of equipment, and they cost money.
Yeah, that's right. And the thing is like, your profit is not what should be going. Like that equipment is a cost of doing business.
Yes.
Like profit, I think a lot of times people are like, hey, I did $1 million. There's $100,000 there's $100,000 in the bank account. So I go and I was like, oh, and I barely paid myself anything, so I'll just take that.
Yeah.
Or I'll go spend it. Then your business made nothing. Yeah. It's essentially what
you should have your check plus what's in the bank account.
Right.
and feel good.
The business should pay you. This is the way I like to think about it. The business should pay the owner's salary based on the responsibilities they carry in the business on a daily basis, the work they do. Meaning, and there's owners out there that do the work of 3 people.
Yes.
Like the best mental exercise to like discern this is like, okay, pretend you broke a leg and stopped working tomorrow. Who all would you have to hire? Most people can't just hire one person, right? So you'd have to hire maybe an admin, a sales manager, an operations manager. Like, okay, well, what are the salaries of those 3 people? Add that up, and that is what should be in your budget. What you pay yourself, well, I mean, it's your business, do what you want, but you should at least be earning yourself a living wage off of salary, and that's a cost of doing business before that gets taken out of profit.
When I saw the number that what I was supposed to be taken out of a salary, and then plus what my wife's role was, because I think it breaks it down, I was like, whoa. I was like, that's crazy. But then when you calculate that we're writing emails, we're laying in bed, we're watching movies, we're writing emails. Like these guys work in the middle of the night, these other property managers, and I'm like, it makes sense. And I'm not saying that I have it figured out. I've gotten a grasp on it, and again, I don't believe that I know. Somebody gave me an olive branch and has been teaching me on how to do the commercial work. I went to my competitors and I was like, what are you doing? How do I did the same thing, so I'm not scared to go and friend these guys. You walk over here, this little corner here is Landscape Central. Like all the major landscapers, all these commercial shops are back here. You come here between 7 and 9 o'clock, you'll see every major vendor pulling into Kenyans. It's
interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But I go and talk to them. You know, their guys quit there and they come work here. You know, so we're rotating the same people, and at least you get an insight. And I'm like, hey, you know, why'd you get rid of Eric? And he's like, oh, I got rid of Eric because of this way. You know, and it's just part of it. Eric will work here for 2 years and then he goes back to, you know what I mean? And it's part of it, but at least you have like an insight. That's the business.
Yeah.
That's what you deal with.
That's interesting.
So I believe being friends, you know, we bid up against each other, and you know if somebody's had an account for 10 years. You know if a guy just getting started, you know, so you learn a lot.
So
you know?
What's been the biggest challenge you've overcome in your business journey?
The biggest challenge, and I was in sales for 5 years.
Okay.
I had a beauty business. I was selling professional hair care. Please don't make fun of me, okay? I was importing a product that came from Bologna, Italy, right? So
Wow.
I was in white collar America. I had a suit on. It was trendy. It was a Euro. I traveled the world. I was in and out of Italy, Bologna, Germany. I saw everything. It was fun. I was terrible at it. I was going in and out of salons, and I had a suit on every day, drove a nice car, and again, you're in corporate America. But it wasn't me. You know, that was my brother's world. I just liked playing in the dirt more. Like, I was just more of a, I liked being messy. I liked having a little bit more schedule. I liked playing with trucks. Like, I used to take little trucks, and I used to cut cans and make them plows, and I would duct tape them to my trucks. I wanted to be like my dad as a kid. So it just wasn't me. So now I have a lot more fun, you know, if I can actually enjoy it and not worry about running the business. So making that transition from taking my suit off and putting boots on and realizing this is who I am, this is what I love, and I'm more comfortable here, because there's a stigma, right? You know, my dad was an immigrant. My dad was a construction worker. In his dream, he always said he wanted to see me in a tie. I'm not a tie guy. I just can't do it, you know? So knowing that I had to like let my dad down and go, it's been one of the best decisions I've ever made. But I had to figure out who I was first.
I feel you. Your dad had a vision for you, what you wanted, and you went and did that. And then found what you really wanted. That's a tough one. What's the best advice you've been given?
Keep going. Yeah, just keep going. I believe in not looking at anybody else. It's easy to go and look at the guy that's been doing it for 30 years.
Yeah.
And being like, wow, you know, what's he doing? The best advice is keep your blinders on, worry about what you have done, what I have grown, what my goals are. But if I compare myself to the guy who's been doing it for 40 years, of course you're gonna wanna feel bad about yourself, this and that. You gotta look at what you're doing. I believe in small increments. The biggest thing that I took away from the beauty business, I don't wanna drown in opportunity. I had opportunities where the big accounts came to me when I was younger, and I knew I wasn't ready. And I didn't take them on. I passed them off. It'd be like, hey, I had so-and-so call me, are you guys interested in the account? I would give them the account. I always believed in taking, if I had one truck, then I would add 2 trucks the following year. If I added another truck, I would, small increments. I understand that on the internet, it's 10X, you wanna, you know, small increments. I drowned it in opportunity in the beauty business, which is also what made it really hard. It was like, put it in perspective for you, it was like Ferrari came to me and was like, hey, we're gonna have you sell Ferrari. You're not gonna turn Ferrari down, it's Ferrari. Then it was like Lamborghini came to you, and Lamborghini's like, hey, we want you to sell us too. You're not gonna turn down Lamborghini. Porsche comes to me. Porsche was like, hey, we want you to sell Porsche. And I never turned these down. And the whole time I depleted my funds, I was taking out things, and I drowned an opportunity before I could even build my business. So I really believe in slow and steady growth. I will not drown.
Comparing yourself to who you were yesterday.
Oh yeah.
Where you were yesterday. Yeah.
I know that was a little dragged out, but that's it in a nutshell.
That's good advice, and especially in the day of social media, where we look, like you said, look at everybody else, and it's easy to compare yourself to the best version of everybody else, you know.
You know, you look at these guys, and you know, there's these guys on the internet, and you know, you're seeing them, and you know, there's kids out there that are 20 years old, and they're running $1 million, $2 million landscape companies, and you're like, I can't even get over 60 houses, you know. So it's, you don't want to compare yourself to it. You know, you don't know their situation. You don't know if they had a parent that had $1 million in the bank and they're funding them, so they could hit the wall no problem. You have 3 kids, so you can't compare. You just can't. And I don't think that's fair to anybody. I really believe in being truthful and giving a lending hand. I have a network of younger guys. They're always calling, and I'm helping them. I do it gladly because I just believe it helps the business overall.
I think it's very honorable and very noble of you. Like, it's we all need those people. Like at every level, wherever you are in life, at every level, we need the person that's been there before us to guide us through. If you could go back to when you started, like you got out of the beauty business, got into the landscaping, if you could go back to that point, right where you started, what is one thing you'd do differently?
Hire the best tax guy. I went through some major audits because of the beauty business, and then as soon as we closed down my beauty business, I got audited for Picone Landscaping. Hire the best and the most expensive tax guy.
Is that how you know the most expensive?
Probably not the best answer, but just you need the best. You need a guy, a corporate guy, a guy that is on your side, because if you get audited, it is just hours and hours and hours. And I mean, we are by the book. Yeah. We are by the book because we just don't want to be in those situations anymore. I mean, but we learned so much from it. And when you have to deal with stuff with the IRS, it's
not a cakewalk.
It's not a cakewalk. Yeah,
I didn't know is not an acceptable answer.
It's definitely not. Yeah, have a great tax guy, and then it's going to help you and understand that you want to grow and that understands your business as well.
You know, that makes me think of. I was just out at Andy Mortar's place last week. On his podcast, we were talking a bit about his sister-in-law that does like accountant consulting, like, which is basically like, I think the point I'm making with sharing this is like, I think the default for too many contractors is, I don't know, just hire whoever's down the street and file my taxes at the end of the year, and you know, how much money do I need to spend so I don't have to pay any taxes? There's so much more, like there's so many mistakes that you can make, that probably are making, void of having someone on your side that can explain these things. But they're expensive. It costs money. It's like anything else. Like you want people to pay for your high-end services. Like it's the same thing in that service. So all I'm saying is, you know, I just saw some of the stories that Stephanie, Andy Mortar's sister-in-law, was doing for contractors, and it was at an event where she was showing some of the stuff she was doing. I was like, dude, everybody needs this. And like, find someone like that in your corner. Sure, you could go Google and self-teach yourself, I guess, but it's not something you want to make mistakes on. Getting someone in your corner that you can just talk plain English to and like help me understand what this all means, help me understand like what I should be doing, that is so important and well worth the money.
The two people, and I know it sounds really cliche, that I talk to the most are my lawyer and tax guy. There's just constant questions that come up that you get put in situations that you need to like protect yourself. I wish I would have started from the beginning with a good tax guy. Mm-hmm. I think I went through like 6 to 8, and I went through audits all the way through the board, and it's scary. You know, with the beauty business, they said that I made like $500,000, which wasn't true at all. So as soon as that ended, okay, and I finally settled, we got audited for Picone Landscaping. Thinking that the guy had and was doing everything correctly, he never applied for a sales tax ID number. We never even collected sales tax. It was like for the first year or two. I thought he had it under control. Year 3, government's like, hey, you owe us sales tax money. I'm like, whoa, I never collected. No, we didn't. That's not our problem. So now all of a sudden you had 1 and 2 that you never collected the money for the sales tax.
You had to pay.
But I had to pay for it. So they went back and they audited. But then they took, I think it was 5 years. So every year we've added a truck or two, and we've added more volume. So they took my best year and they went, okay, well, this is what you did. We're gonna backtrack at 5 years. Then you have to go and disprove it. So you have to go be like, well, listen, I only did this much in fuel. This year I didn't fuel. And then you have to hope that they believe you. And then you get to a point where you're paying so much for the tax guy that you just settle. So even though that they were wrong and you're showing your hand.
It's easier to just settle than
easier
to fight
just to settle. So I wish I would have just started with the right guy from the beginning that had the best interest. And again, it's not that that guy was trying to deliberately hurt me. He just didn't know. He thought that we were covered. He was not familiar with landscaping. So when you're interviewing a tax guy, you want to know that he has landscaping experience.
Yeah. What are 3 questions? If you were to go interview a new tax guy tomorrow, like what are 3 questions you'd ask him to vet? Like if you want to hire this guy, you know.
I would say, how many audits have you been through?
Okay.
Because it's just so intense. And if he's been through an audit, is whether it's been a New York State or federal audit. I want to know how many people he has on his team so that he can help, because there's just so much labor intensive. I'm going through line by line, matching bank accounts, because once you start doing this volume, you know, and you have to explain all of these transactions, it's just hours. Those are probably my 2 biggest questions.
Okay. That's helpful.
And then I want to see his response time.
Yes, that's a big one.
That's a big thing.
That drives me nuts.
So if I'm not getting back to by at least the next day on things, because you're pressed for time when you're in the middle of an audit. So I need to know response time, and that would be big. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then if they've had other landscape companies too. That's also a big thing, because now the guy that I work with is amazing, but I would say I'm his biggest landscaper. So now a lot of times he'll call me and we're going back and forth because we have so much time in together. He's like, hey, we're buying a loader. Well, there's a lot of back and forth.
Hilarious.
Yeah. So, but he's been wonderful.
That's
he's
awesome.
He's actually fair.
Having a good relationship is
You got to be
important.
comfortable with who you're working with. I think having good vendors are massive. I mean, I'm probably loyal to a fault, probably, but if you're good to me, I'll die with you type of thing. So.
What is one thing that makes you unique about your business or your team, your culture?
I think I'm a pretty compassionate guy. I think I get too invested with my guys where, I'm their tax guy, I'm their lawyer, I am their,
I can see it.
I'm talking about, hey, how to handle their kids, or talking about what's going on with their wife, and then sometimes my wife was like, what are you doing? She's like, you should have been like a therapist. But my thing is a guy that gives me their back, that's working for me, I will die for you.
Yeah.
If you're a guy that shows up every day and you are on time, and I know, especially in snowplowing, if I can go to sleep and know that you're working, because the way that I run it is I check the lots, I'm out, I go to bed, they're finishing, I wake up, and then I go back out and I do their touch-ups. So I'm on opposite schedules.
Gotcha.
So if I know that I can go to bed and you're up in the middle of the night, I will give you my back. And I go above and beyond. But if you're just a guy that's in and out of here, you won't get my attention. So that's probably it right there. Yeah.
That is powerful, because that builds. That's the kind of stuff that builds teams. We are human beings at the end of the day. We're not robots. Well, hey, thanks a million. This has been a really good conversation.
I hope I did good. So
you totally nailed it. It's so rewarding for me, for us, to get to listen the raw, real story on the ground, the boots on the ground of what SynkedUP has done for you. And I love business, so talking shop like this is a great pastime for me. But I know that it takes selecting your program. It's a big. You put a lot of faith and trust in it, and we don't take that lightly. And just want to say thank you for putting your faith and trust in us.
You're in the heart and soul of our business. Our system has been thriving on it. It's been huge. We love it. We found stuff, we email you guys, be like, hey, can we fix this? You guys get to it. So it's been huge. I believe that your vendors, your partners are the biggest thing. So I'm only as good as that you allow me to be. And that's the same with our mechanics, our vendors, our multiplayers. So I thank you too.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's only going to get better from here,
so.
onward and upward. So thanks for giving us the time of your day.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, brother.
Thank you very much.
You betcha.